Welcome to Arkansas Wildlife. It's that time of year here in the natural state when many hunters are making the transition from deer season to duck season. And this week's show will reflect that changing time of year. We'll delve into some of the changes the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is implementing to improve green tree reservoir management to ensure great green timber duck hunting for generations to come. And a little later in the show, we'll see how Arkansas Hunters Feeding the Hungry is helping less fortunate Arkansans with donated venison. But first, we're going to get our boots wet in Bayou Wildlife Management Area on a green timber duck hunt. All that and this week's winner of an Arkansas hunting and fishing license right after this break. Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Academy Sports and Outdoors. For all, for less. When it comes to duck hunting and flooded green timber, there's no place like home.
Oh, I laid off of her. I was trying to keep it green, dog.
Arkansas is known far and wide as one of the world's top duck hunting destinations. And the biggest reason for that reputation is the abundance of seasonally flooded bottomland hardwood forests. Despite losing much of its historical bottomland hardwoods to the saw and the plow, Arkansas has fared better than other states in the lower Mississippi River floodplain. Better still, many of the largest tracts of seasonally flooded green timber are open to public hunting.
It's not available on this scale really anywhere else in the world. You just don't have these large blocks of public land like we have in Arkansas that are accessible to pretty much anyone can go out there and participate in green timber duck hunting.
The crown jewel of Arkansas public green timber hunting is Bayou Wildlife Management Area. Spanning roughly 32,000 acres in Arkansas and Jefferson counties, Bayou is the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's first and largest wildlife management area. More than 13,000 acres are managed as seasonally flooded green tree reservoirs, which provide important habitat for migrating ducks and opportunities for hunters. The Bayou Basin includes 6 watersheds encompassing more than 900,000 acres. At the basin's lower end, numerous bayous, ditches, and sloughs start running together to form a wilderness wetland that has attracted hunters for generations. Although the area known as the Scatters has been plagued by problems and controversy since Game and Fish purchased the first parcels in 1948, most duck hunters will tell you it's been worth the trouble.
That was beautiful.
Duck hunting at Bayou Meto comes with its share of difficulties. When the ducks are here in good numbers, word travels quickly, meaning there's often competition for the best hunting spots. Highly pressured ducks become wary birds and can be skittish about dropping below the treetops. But when everything comes together, the results can be spectacular. The natural state is known far and wide for its superb duck hunting, but it's the abundance of flooded green timber hunting that sets Arkansas apart from other popular duck hunting destinations. Arkansas boasted more than 5 million acres of bottomland hardwood forests prior to European settlement, and while maybe 20% of that is all that remains, the natural state is far better off than many of its neighbors in the Mississippi Delta. The construction of greentree reservoirs has also helped to preserve the state's green timber duck hunting legacy. GTRs, as they're commonly known, allow land managers to artificially replicate the seasonal flooding patterns of traditional bottomland hardwood forests. They provide critical habitat for migrating waterfowl and hunting opportunities for the state's duck hunters.
Greentree reservoirs are actually a very important part of what's left of the bottomland hardwood forest that was historically widespread in Arkansas all the way across the eastern part of the state.
Arkansas is famous for its wealth of public green timber hunting at places such as Bayou Meto and Black River wildlife management areas. But if the state's reputation as a mecca for green timber duck hunting is going to persist, water management on public greentree reservoirs must change. The artificial flooding regime that has been in place for decades has had negative effects on forest health.
The trees that live in those areas are trees that tolerate some flooding during the course of the year, mainly dormant season flooding, but not growing season flooding. Greentree reservoirs, of course, have been managed for waterfowl hunting primarily, at least in recent years. So the timing of the flooding, in many cases in the past, was geared more towards the timing of duck seasons as opposed to the timing of when the natural flooding would have occurred in those bottomland forests.
That wasn't just bad in and of itself. People thought they were doing the right thing to provide duck habitat and waterfowl hunting opportunity. But making that decision based on an annual, with an annual focus year after year is kind of what got us to this point.
The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has spent considerable time and energy looking at the health of its public duck hunting areas over the past several years. The diagnosis hasn't been good. Excessive exposure to water has killed trees and made many others sick. The composition of the forest is also changing. The red oak species that benefit wildlife are being replaced by more water-tolerant species that are less valuable to ducks and other wildlife.
There's no red oak regeneration happening within 1/10 of an acre. Everything that's in here is elm and overcut.
But the Game and Fish Commission's motivation for altering its green tree management goes much deeper than that.
It's about the forest that frankly should be there. Looking at what is the natural vegetative community that should exist at this elevation, this soil type, this flooding frequency. What's the forest community that was here, you know, pre-European settlement, pre-GTR, pre the initial timber harvest back before Game and Fish got it. It's been affected by all these things: hydrology, past forest management, before our ownership. Taking all that information together and saying, okay, what's the forest type that should exist here? We're trying to put the right forest community on the landscape that should exist on that site. And that actually may be different than what would have existed 100 years ago, because the hydrology is different now.
For an extreme example of what happens when too much water stays on a forest for too long, we can turn to Henry Gray Hurricane Lake WMA near Bald Knob. Several years of high water on the White River, combined with infrastructure deficiencies, have caused the death of several hundred acres of hardwood trees in the South GTR. That has led the Game and Fish Commission to take the unprecedented step of keeping water control structures open for the foreseeable future, in hopes of saving some of the area's remaining trees. To avoid similar outcomes on other wildlife management areas, Game and Fish will need to alter water management plans on other green tree reservoirs. Many changes will require new or improved infrastructure, but the overall theme will be trying to mimic natural processes, which will mean adaptive and variable water levels.
No rocket science here, but rather just trying to emulate or to replicate, if you will, what Mother Nature would have done naturally anyway. First off, make sure that we don't have prolonged flooding in the growing season, either in the fall or in the spring. Secondly, to try and replicate the things that occur across years, so that we don't do exactly the same thing year after year, because that's not how Mother Nature did it.
The new management plans will require patience and understanding on the part of duck hunters.
So human beings in general, I guess, and duck hunters especially, maybe, are we want consistency, we want reliability, right? And the last thing you can expect out of Mother Nature is any kind of consistency. We've gone years and years and years of saying this is going to happen every year at the same time. Well, that's not how Mother Nature works. That's not how these systems are adapted to function. They just don't operate like that. Admittedly, there's going to be some frustration. I'm going to be frustrated as a duck hunter, not knowing when a particular area may or may not have water in it in future years.
Today's duck hunters may have to make some short-term sacrifices, but the long-term benefits make it all worthwhile.
I'm an active duck hunter. Probably a lot of the people that are interested in this are active duck hunters. Everything that we're doing is not in any way to jeopardize that legacy of hunting. And we want to make it better, and we want to make it sustainable. And for sure, we want to make sure that we do it in a way that not just you and I can enjoy, but our children, our grandchildren, and for generations to come. That's what we've been entrusted with. We've been fortunate enough to be able to manage these spots, to do it in a way that's sustainable, and that's what we need to be doing going forward.
For roughly 300,000 Arkansans, deer hunting is an annual rite of fall. The state's abundant whitetail population supports a thriving deer harvest, and while many hunters take advantage of nature's bounty to stock their freezers with lean, natural venison, many Arkansas deer hunters also use the state's whitetail abundance to help less fortunate neighbors through Arkansas Hunters Feeding the Hungry.
Arkansas Hunters Feeding the Hungry got started in 2000, so we're talking many years ago. Our goal is to provide meals to those in need in Arkansas.
Over the 15 years that we've been donating through Hunters Feeding the Hungry, we have donated about 25,000 pounds, maybe a little more, enough to serve about 100,000 people.
We've done several thousand pounds. One year we turned out close to 6,500 pounds in 1 year.
We wanted to get involved because it affects so many families locally in central Arkansas.
It's a wonderful opportunity. It's a simple process. You come in, you fill out a simple transfer form. We don't take much of your time. You're in and out of there as quick as possible.
Participation is simple. Hunters can take deer to a participating meat processor and donate all or a portion to Hunters Feeding the Hungry.
So the way you donate a deer, first you can look on our website. On our website we have all the processors listed by county alphabetically. So either where you hunt or where you live, there's probably a processor close by. So a hunter harvests a deer, field dresses it, drops it off to a local processor. The processor then debones that, grinds it up into burger, and then calls a local feeding agency, which makes distribution for us.
This wonderful program of us getting venison is just absolutely wonderful. It just adds to our pantry, and it helps to feed those children's faces that I see.
Since the program's inception, it has provided literally millions of servings of protein, a dietary component that's usually expensive and hard for food pantries to provide.
We can get these canned goods just every week if we need them. Meat, not so much.
Boy, we depend on it. It's a great source of low-fat protein, and of course protein items are some of the hardest things, most expensive things for our clients and our pantries to get, and so we're always grateful.
We're able to give them that meat, that wonderful meat.
Despite the success of the program, donations from Arkansas hunters typically account for just a tiny fraction of the state's annual deer harvest.
In the last couple of years, Arkansas hunters have killed over 200,000 deer. We've only had less than 1% donated. And if we could get that up to 2%, even up to 5%, we could reach our goal of 1 million servings per year.
We ask hunters that once they get a couple of deer in the freezer to continue hunting. A lot of people like to continue hunting, but sometimes they don't know what to do with that deer. But we would ask them to go ahead and take another deer or two, donate to Hunters Feeding the Hungry, because we have a lot of needy people in Arkansas, and we can always use the extra meat. We have about 2,000 deer donated each year, which produces between 50 and 60,000 pounds, 25 to 30 tons. We could probably do 100,000, 200,000 pounds and still not have enough to serve the needs of the food pantries across the state.
We can do better than that as Arkansans. We can pull together and donate more.
No donation is too small.
2 pounds here and 2 pounds there adds up. And so if people just want to donate one package of it, you know, that's good too. That helps a lot. Every little bit helps.
Beyond donating venison, there are other ways to help.
Really the best way for folks to help us do what we do, and obviously we have to raise money to pay for processing costs and some other costs, is when you buy your hunting or fishing license. We ask that people would take a look at that, and you can have an opportunity to donate $1, $5, or $10.
Whether the donation comes in the form of venison or cash, it all helps Arkansas Hunters Feeding the Hungry meet its goal of nourishing people in need. A prime example is one of the organization's newest programs for providing healthy protein for Arkansas school children.
Something we're really excited about that we've developed recently is our snack stick program. We call it the Woods to School Snack Stick Program. So we've developed a shelf-stable snack stick. We're putting it in backpack programs in schools. So far we've got it in about 10 schools across the state. Hopefully going forward we can really put this in schools all across the state. So we're really excited about these shelf-stable snack sticks. The more deer we can get donated, the more schools we can serve. You know, the feedback we've received from the schools have been tremendous. The kids love them.
While deer hunting is a passion and pastime for many Arkansans, it's also helping alleviate hunger in the natural state.
This is different. We are delivering right to them. And so you see the faces of the people that you impact that get it, and they're so grateful.
Think about my 9,400 people. Multiply that by, 20, 30, 40 pantries. That's how many people we're talking about. Think about that. You can give back, and what a wonderful way to give.
Arkansas Wildlife presents the Watch and Win giveaway. During each episode of Arkansas Wildlife, we'll give away an Arkansas resident hunting and fishing license. At the end of this season, we'll be giving away $500 worth of hunting gear with everything you need for your next hunting adventure. It's all provided by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Visit the Arkansas Wildlife webpage and enter at arkansaswildlife.com. This week's winner is Rich Rothwell from Jonesboro. Congratulations and thanks for watching.